And then, of course, the main event, Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe for the Universal Championship. Another excellent match. And I never thought I would say that about a 6-minute main event of a pay-per-view, but this was perfect. I mean, maybe not perfect. It could have been done a bit better, but I thought in terms of the way that it was laid out, the way that Samoa Joe came across here, he dominated 90% of the match. So anyone saying that Samoa Joe was buried here by Brock Lesnar obviously does not know what they're talking about. Would I have wanted to see Samoa Joe take at least one more F5 before going down to Brock? Absolutely. I mean, we see so many people kick out of finishers these days. Friggin' Undertaker kicked out of how many F5s a few years ago? 2? 3 in their Hell in a Cell match? Roman Reigns literally kicked out of 3 F5s at WrestleMania 31. It doesn't diminish the move. It just, I don't know. I just thought it was dumb. I mean, I could see why Dean Ambrose or Randy Orton or God knows who else, Kofi Kingston, wouldn't kick out of the F5, but Samoa Joe should have, considering how hot he has been in the past month and how much he's been built up. And I understand going into this match, this was designed to be a one-off. And again, I'll talk more about that in my Raw review. It all goes back to that Raw review momentarily, I promise. But Samoa Joe really should have put up more. I mean, I can't even say put up more of a fight because he looked great here in this entire match. Even before the match, he attacked he attacked Brock Lesnar before the bell even sounded, putting him through the table at ringside. Brock has not sold this much for anybody, including Goldberg. Because the Goldberg matches, he would take one spear and a jackhammer, and that's it. He would lose pretty decisively and quickly, but he didn't sell all that much. Joe, he sold more for Joe here than he probably has for anyone else combined in the last 3 or 4 years. That's how much Brock Lesnar put over Joe here without actually having Joe go over Brock Lesnar. That's how strong Samoa Joe looked here, I thought. And we might as well just talk about it here. They talked about the next night. They had Brock Lesnar out there. Roman Reigns interrupted. Samoa Joe interrupted him. A 3-way back and forth, which I thought was fantastic. Easily the best thing in the entire show. They're all going at it, proclaiming who deserves the next shot. And Roman Reigns like, I deserve the next shot, despite the fact he fucking lost to Braun Strowman on Sunday. And Brock Lesnar with the line of the night, you think you deserve another shot at my title? You don't deserve shit. And obviously it was bleeped out, but the audience popped huge, I popped huge. Brock Lesnar, they gotta let him talk more. I mean, his voice is not the most intimidating voice out there, but when you put a mic in the guy's hands, a live mic in Brock Lesnar's hands, he's money. He's awesome. Like, it goes back to that Slater promo from a year ago. You got kids, Heath? I got kids too, Heath. I got kids too. I don't give a shit about your kids. One of the best lines I had heard in the entire year of 2016 in WWE. They got to let Brock talk more. I love Paul Heyman, but the money is with Brock as a talker when it's short and sweet. When he's out there cutting 10-minute promos like he was 5 years ago before Heyman came back, that's when it turns into a train wreck. But when he's allowed to cut short and sweet promos that are right to the point, he's amazing, as he was on Monday. But the point I'm trying to make here is this. Next Monday, in a number 1 contenders match, the winner goes on to SummerSlam to contend for the Universal Championship against Brock Lesnar. It's Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe. Now, they very easily can do this. Have Reigns beat Joe, as I fear he will. I think it's going to happen. What I want to happen is not what I have faith will happen. But they're probably going to have Roman go over Joe, especially since Joe brought up again here that Roman has yet to beat him. He's 0-2 against Samoa Joe. Reigns will beat Joe here and then beat Brock for the belt at SummerSlam. I think, honestly, at this point, it would be a mistake to have Brock Lesnar leave Summer. I think Lesnar should have lost the title on Sunday. He didn't. Whatever, I didn't think he would. But at this point, with the way that Raw has been going, I'm not saying Brock Lesnar not being there is what's the biggest issue they're dealing with right now, but it doesn't help. And you can still have Brock be around and chase the championship, which might be even better going into WrestleMania, leading to Brock and Joe too, but that's what I would do. I'm sure that's not what the company has in mind. But I just feel like he has to have another shot at the title, whether it be one-on-one or a fatal 4-way, and having Braun come out, because Braun won the ambulance match. I mean, he was taken out by Roman afterwards, but he won the match. And they're not turning Roman Reigns heel. I talked about that on Wednesday and #AskGSM. They're not going to turn the guy heel, so let's stop asking about that. Because they didn't. They didn't, talk about his attack on Braun Strowman in a heelish way. They didn't, talk down upon Roman Reigns and being like, why would you do such a thing? That's not what a babyface would do. The commentators didn't really care. They apparently thought it was okay to apparently try to kill someone. And Roman's like, oh, that's what you did in the Attitude Era all the time. Well, dude, that was 20 years ago. You can get away with a lot more in the Attitude Era compared to what you can do today. And you were no Stone Cold Steve Austin. Trust me, you are not Stone Cold Steve Austin. So don't try to be. You're not The Rock either. You're Roman Reigns. And no wonder no one likes you when you're attempting to kill our favorite superstars, despite the fact our favorite superstar is Braun Strowman and he's a heel. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at here is this. They can go a couple different routes here. Worst case scenario is that Roman beats Joe clean on Monday, then faces Lesnar at SummerSlam. Not that I don't want to see Reigns and Lesnar too at this point, though. I just think it's a mistake. Because Joe has been built up so well, I'm sure way better than the company ever intended to build him up to be in the past, month and a half or so. How can he be left out of the title picture at SummerSlam? Or not be involved in a big match? What, is he going to face Braun Strowman? I mean, they're both heels. It doesn't make any sense. So I think Roman and Brock, again, at SummerSlam would be worst case scenario. What I would be content with would be Braun Strowman and Brock one-on-one. Now, that would be all right. And I guess, but they're doing Roman and Joe next week. So do you do Roman and Joe again? I just think that would be a waste. And I think Roman would win that too anyway. So regardless, if it's one-on-one, Roman's going to beat Joe, I think. You could do Joe and Lesnar too, but it doesn't appear that Joe was protected. I mean, he was protected because he dominated the majority of that match last Sunday. I just don't think... I don't know, the way that they did the finish on Sunday's show with him losing via 1F5 meant that it was pretty much a one-off. But the way they did it on Monday, with the way that Joe got over, getting a bigger pop than either guy when he made his entrance on Raw this week, that he's got to be a part of the match. So if they don't do Joe and Lesnar 2, which at this point I would save until next year, until WrestleMania, which I think would be perfect, and then you have Joe go over Brock instead of Roman Reigns in Brock's final match, that would be perfect. If you do a Fatal 4-Way, which I think is best case scenario, you have Joe in there, you have Strowman in the mix, you have Roman Reigns, even though he doesn't deserve to be, but it is what it is. Roman has not won a pay-per-view match since he beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, which is amazing to think about, but he lost the Payback, he lost at Extreme Rules, and he lost again at Great Balls of Fire, which I'm not saying that he should have won any of those past 3 matches, but he's a loser. And, from a storyline standpoint, the guy's a freaking loser. So he does not deserve a title shot, but that's apparently the new mantra for WWE these days, that if you lose a match, you automatically get a title shot. That's the way they book nowadays, both on Raw and SmackDown, respectively. Anyway, though, I think a Fatal 4-Way is the best way to go. It's the best of every world, really. With Brock, I mean, he's going to have a better... I don't think he's ever been in a 4-way match before in WWE since he's been back. I know he had 1 triple threat, or 2 triple threats. We had one with Roman, Ambrose, and Lesnar at Fastlane 2016. We had another one, which was probably the best main roster match in WWE that year, in 2015, between Lesnar, Cena, and Rollins. And technically the one at WrestleMania with Reigns and Rollins and Lesnar, if you really even want to count that, which really wasn't, up until the final minute or so. But anyway, I would do the Fatal 4-Way. I think it'd be a better match. I think it's more unpredictable. I would have Joe walk out as the new champion, and if you do that, you wouldn't have to have Brock be pinned or submitted. So, I think Reigns right now as champion is not compelling, nor is it even realistic. I think there's a lot more baby faces on the roster that Joe can defend against that makes sense compared to Roman Reigns as champion. So let's say you put the belt on Roman, whether it be in a Fatal 4-Way at SummerSlam, which it probably should be, or the one-on-one match. I think they're holding off on the Reigns win. I mean, here's the thing, too. I'm not saying Joe and Lesnar at WrestleMania needs to be for the belt. You can have Joe and Lesnar be a one-on-one match and have Joe win, finally. I think that'd be cool. Put over Joe on the way out, on Brock Lesnar's way out. But you could also do Reigns winning the belt between now and WrestleMania, beating Joe at a later date. And, and then you do Joe, or rather, I guess technically Joe Inoue, whatever his real name is. You could do Reigns and Cena for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania. I'd be fine with that. Cena's the big, free agent, which we still have yet to have cleared up in any form or fashion. He wasn't on Raw this week. Anyway, but what I'm trying to say here is this. If Reigns being champion right now, who would he even defend against? Samoa Joe? Like, if he won the belt at SummerSlam? You know Joe's not going to win against Roman Reigns if Reigns wins the belt next month. It would be a waste. Reigns and Strowman again? We literally just saw it 3 or 4 times on pay-per-view. I know they have great matches and whatnot, but we just saw it. I'm good for right now. You know, Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt, I know they're building him back up. He won 2 back-to-back matches against Seth Rollins at the pay-per-view and on Raw, which is cool. But I think that's leading to a Finn Balor-Bray Wyatt feud, which is probably for the better going into SummerSlam. It's a good use of both guys. But Roman and Bray Wyatt, no thanks. I mean, they had a good match on Raw a few months ago, but Reigns won clean. Like a month or so ago, and Reigns won clean. So why would I want to see Bray Wyatt go for the gold when I know he's going to lose? Miz is the Intercontinental Champion. And that's about it. I know they have Big Cass, but they're not going to put Big Cass in the title picture, I don't think, anytime soon, nor should they. They don't really have many options for Roman Reigns as champion. Again, with Samoa Joe, and I'm sorry I keep on going back to this Joe as champion, but I think he needs to be champion coming out of SummerSlam in that Fatal 4-Way. I think it's the best route to take. You could do Roman, you could do Roman and Joe, keep Roman Reigns in chase mode. You could still do that feud. I don't hate the feud. I just don't like the fact that Joe would have to lose a few pay-per-views in a row to Roman Reigns. That would be a mistake. But you could do Reigns and Joe. You can go back to Joe and Rollins. They kind of have some unfinished business. I know they kind of wrapped up the rivalry a few months ago in Raw. But you could do that, or about a month or so ago. You could do that feud over the championship. You could do, I'm trying to think of other baby faces that are on Raw. You could turn Braun Strowman and do Samoa Joe and Braun Strowman over the championship. There's a few choices. I mean, you could do Joe and Ambrose if you want. There's a few realistic choices. Joe and John Cena, if they bring him over to Raw as the free agent. That would be amazing. Joe and John Cena, sign me up. So I think Joe, the end game needs to be Joe as champion. But bottom line here, the match at SummerSlam has got to be a Fatal 4-Way. If it's not going to be Joe Lesnar 2, which is fine, I think they should save that now at this point for a later date, because they need to have another match. That match was great at the pay-per-view last Sunday. It would be a mistake if Joe was... What other top-tier match could he have at the pay-per-view? Him against John Cena? If that doesn't make any sense. I mean, I know John Cena's a free agent, but I would rather not rush that rivalry, and I would save that for when it's more meaningful down the road. So Joe, even if he's facing Braun Strowman at SummerSlam, which would be just dumb, I don't know why they would even do that, I think it's got to be Joe in the Fatal 4-Way, but Joe walking out as Universal Champion, it would be a massive mistake if they don't have him at least contend for the championship at the pay-per-view. Whether he wins or loses is debatable, but I personally think that he should leave SummerSlam as the Universal Champion.